We get back to the discussion. It does pertain, of course, the continuous outcome or outpouring support for the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force report, which was yesterday unveiled by the President and the Opposition Chief Raila Odinga at the Bomas of Kenya here in Nairobi, attended by more than 4,000 delegates, among them the President, the Opposition Chief Raila Odinga, and Kenyans who have been tuned into that important session from all across the country. They spoke about unity, they spoke about the coming together, the need to end ethnic balkanization, the need for Kenya to go forward in a united front foot beyond 2022, to end corruption, to strengthen devolution, and support a governance system that serves all Kenyans with no regard for political affiliation, distance from Nairobi, ethnic or religious belonging, and that is likely, according to them, going to aid the prosperity of this country and perhaps end the accusations upon the political establishment of patronage, incompetence, and corruption. But we are specifically going to be taking a look at it from the economic perspective and how this is going to be the launching pad for economic prosperity upon Kenyans, because they seem to be swimming in hard economic times or turbulent times at the current moment, even as the IMF and the World Bank have expressed concerns about the conduct of the economic progress in the country and warning that we are living beyond our means. For that discussion, though, I'll be joined by Benki Nuthi, who is a lawyer and political commentator, sat at the Bomas 2005 summit, and it's 15 years since you sat there.
Yes, I was the only observer on behalf of the youth in Kenya.
And equally unimportant coming together yesterday happened.
Yes.
Daktari Joseph Rotich is an economist. Thank you, Daktari, for joining us. I do appreciate your time. First time to meet you on Thursdays.
Oh, yes. We thank God for this.
Asante sana.
Amen.
I do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, a lot has been happening in the country, but I'm coming to you, Daktari, first, because there seems to be a lot of undertakings, and the profession with which you belong, being an economist, you have been branded literally in the first 6 years of the president's government as doomsayers, as the prophets of doom, because you predicted that in the event that nothing does change or the conduct of the political, handling of the economy is not well managed, then we are going to be on the abyss for more aftershocks because of the mishandling and the mismanagement of the economy. Do you read perhaps as this report, the coming together of the top leadership, the top echelons in the country, as perhaps being the start key of economic progress for Kenya? And what do we need to avoid then in order to avoid, what do we need to don't do to avoid such an economic mess that we're witnessing at the moment?
I think the origin of our problem as the country has been political in nature. Because economically Kenyans are very enterprising people. This is a society that is very powerful, a society that knows business. Wherever they have been, you have heard of Kenyans in Tanzania, Kenyans in South Africa, Kenyans everywhere. They are there because these are people who are actually adventurous when it comes to business. The undoing that has made this country to the position that we are in is the political class. When there is uncertainty in the country, when the investors don't believe in the leadership that is in place, it becomes very difficult for the investors to put their money in place. So the necessary prerequisites that we should have as a nation is to enhance peace and security for our people, security for the investors, security for the assets of those who are investing. You cannot invest in a society that you are not sure of the next day. So the beginning of our success in the economic side is the political stability that we must put in place.
Okay. Do you find it problematic then that in the years to the build-up or the months to the build-up of the handshake or the coming together of the two principals who yesterday say it took them some 19 hours before they came to address the media, that the president, the government generally was holding its nose amid the economic crisis point in the country, and that does it not bother you or other Kenyans for that matter, or the leadership in the country, that at this particular time we need to be more cautious, and going forward we need to put the economic jargon into proper use, because apparently we seem to be in mess owing to the revelations or the statements made by the CBK governor Njoroge that the former CS Rotich messed up the economy by borrowing spree that never ended, and the president's lack of ending the begging bowl culture.
I think personally I don't buy that idea of a single condemnation of the cabinet Rotich.
Former cabinet minister.
Why? It is because when this government came to power, it had all the ambitions that were before them, that they had pledged to the nation, that this is what we are going to do. and the little resources that our country can collect through the revenue, our KRA could not meet the targets. And then by not meeting the targets, it means they had to go an extra mile to borrow funds from outside the lenders. The only mistake that happens is that the government went for the commercial loan instead of the soft loans, which of course in this case could be cheaper as compared with what they borrowed. So what we are now paying is double or triple the original capital that was borrowed by the government. So the issue of saying that Rotich really messed up the economy, it is uncalled for because he was just a mere servant implementing the government policies.
And being a presidential appointee then, does it perhaps also spread or lay out the problems upon the shoulders of the president because he has been the appointee, and a mega billion deal cannot be signed by Rotich without the consent of the president?
They are all in the basket. The buck stopped at the head of state.
Meaning
you cannot shy away.
Meaning
you see, the issue is all the trips that the president has been making to these other countries for economic support. He's been going with this the cabinet secretary. Does that mean that by the time the cabinet was passing this way, the president was passing this way? So it is one and the same thing.
So we agree that the president is the overall person who will shoulder the responsibility.
He is.
And should be
the buck stop at him.
Okay, because he's the head of state. Therefore, we agree on that.
Yeah.
Benkinudi, if I may come to you. 2020 September, we need to pay back 1.2 trillion Kenya shillings debt owed to domestic lenders in the country. The international lender said 43% of 2.87 trillion public domestic debt is owed to local investors and will have to be settled in 2020 by the taxpayers, me, you, and Dr. Rotich. The World Bank wants the National Treasury to focus on reducing debt to GDP ratio from the current 62% to 55% in the medium term, not in the long term. Therefore, when you look at this, does the current political will, the current new dawn for Kenya politically, perhaps inform a better economic time ahead for Kenyans? In
fact, what we should know, just for a minute, is that the government has borrowed. This government has been in power for the last over 7 years.
Yes.
And much of it has been done as far as the infrastructure is concerned. You talk of the SGR, you talk of so many other infrastructural development that has been done, and much of what has been done through the borrowed loan from the outside. Now the loan is maturing. The loan now is being paid. The Kenyans are feeling 57% of our total revenue that we collect goes to the servicing of the debts. So in this case, we have got very little to save. We have got very little to put into other usable avenues. So the issue at hand is the World Bank is advising Kenyans to reduce the borrowing.
Yes.
And recently you saw the debt rate was actually expanded to 9 trillion.
The debt ceiling.
The debt ceiling, I mean.
I mean the caution by the World Bank.
Yes,
Parliament never heeded that.
And then now again, why was it the extension? It was because the government actually needed time to borrow softer loan of lesser interest rate to be able to service the same loan that we are actually borrowing. So we are in a most difficult time because we are servicing the loan that we have spent. The only fear that we have is what we are collecting from our taxpayers sustainable enough to propel the country while we are paying these debts.
Okay, we'll come to the other element because a softer loan, a loan for another loan,
yes,
a burden on burden,
that is
because Kenyans at the moment are feeling that particular brunt of the mismanagement of the economy. Benkinudi, if I may come to you, does the coming together now, we have seen some sense of political sanity in the country ever since March 2018. And yesterday, though factional politics played out in the case of Murkomen and Junaid Mohammed, does it again inform perhaps that the political scene, the political sanity, the political calm in the country might inform investor coming in, investment in the country? That again informs the creation of jobs to perhaps liquidify the economy, which at the moment is at viscous point and is not moving.
Thank you very much. A very good morning to you and to everyone watching us this morning. I think I would want to start from where you have stopped. And I would like to say that lasting change can only occur when it happens in the brain and in the spirit. So we have a lot of change that we are trying to do here in this country, but it's occurring in documents and in places that we do not believe. Mm-hmm. When I look at the body language of the president, when I look at the body language of Musalia Mudavadi, I could see that there are few leaders in this nation to whom lasting change is occurring in their spirits and in their minds and in their bodies. Because when that change occurs there, then this nation will begin to move forward. Every other document we make is useless because sometimes we do not mean what we are trying to do. Now, I tend to differ slightly with my colleague here when he talks about that we need peace and security to be able to govern this nation properly. Those are good and they're important. But we are asking for peace and security so that we can import, you know, a nation is a nation that is able to give its people food, shelter, and clothing. Now, you cannot call yourself a father if you cannot feed your family. You're not supposed to call yourself a father if you cannot clothe your family. And you cannot supposed to call yourself a father if you're not able to provide, even if it's a shanty, for your family. Now, we have a nation that relies on imported food. Rice, I was reading, is rotting in parts of Nyanza where they've started doing rice right now. It's getting spoiled. The farmers have nowhere to take it so that we can import rice from Pakistan. Okay? So we are killing jobs here and creating jobs in Pakistan. The Wright brothers are the guys who made the first aircraft. And the good thing with them is that they were not engineers. In fact, engineers told them it's impossible for human beings to fly because there will be a compression and so much rubbish.
Force of gravity.
Yeah. Today, because people who are not engineers believed that they can fly, we are able to fly. For as long as we are going to follow economists, we are going to go wrong. Because economists, they have failed. They are telling us that this nation is doing well to borrow. It is doing wrong. Our people are not beggars. We don't need a ball. Let me come to you.
Okay,
this is what I'm trying
to say. The point is, to just get specificity, equally the government should shoulder some responsibility because they term them as prophets of doom. They warned that there's need for the money that comes in or the money that is borrowed to go into proper management and a case of fiscal discipline. They call for that generally, but they were labeled names, and then this is now coming out. The SGR issue is not paying off as needed, and this is piling more pressure, not only on the government, but the taxpayers equally, because it's going to be an all-encompassing burden Kenyans will shoulder.
Abdi, why are you borrowing money to come and build roads while the people themselves are telling you, we have rice rotting in our farms? If you allow us if you stop importation of rice, we shall have enough money. You can tax us and do roads on the taxes that we are giving you from selling our own rice. All I'm trying to say is that we have a nation that, you know, we can't even clothe ourselves. We are importing underwear from China. We are naked. And we are here gloating and saying we are borrowing money to build a railway. By the way, for your information, before SGR came, Kenya had a very heavy railway network. We could connect Mombasa to Kisumu, to Busia, to, you know, like parts of Nyahururu, parts of Nyeri, parts of Nanyuki do have a railway line. Parts of Central Province do have a railway line. What is this SGR we are celebrating that has begun in Mombasa and ended up in the bush? It's actually literally ended up in the bush. We have borrowed money to create an SGR that dies in the bush. So all I'm saying is the bulk of these monies have been borrowed with advice of economists like this one, who would have come and told them no. We already have an old working railway. How do we first make use of this old work? Because our nation is so well networked in terms of railway line. But we have spent more money building a railway that begins in Mombasa and ends in the bush. So some of this borrowing is
Mombasa without,
and then it goes back to Mombasa without anything. Some of this borrowing is unnecessary. We need to get down and sit and ask ourselves, if we had spent that more than 300 billion that we spent on SGR, just reviving the old railway so that I can live here and go to Nyanyuki by train, you can live here and go to Nyeri by train, and Eldoret and all those other places, this nation will probably be in a better place than it is today.
Okay, Dr. Rotich, if I may come to...
I think, let me just chip in on that side.
Yes, briefly.
Let me tell you, Kenya has achieved a lot as far as the infrastructural development is concerned. And the infrastructural that I'm talking about, you talk about the roads, the very good roads that we are using today. These are Chinese roads that were made. In fact, we are living in China when we are in Kenya, if that is how I can put it. We have also facilities like health facilities that we are enjoying today. It was much of it was borrowed, like what you are using in our hospitals. We have electricity that we have, the government has put in place. All these infrastructures are the necessary prerequisites for any developing nation. So much has been done. As much as we are feeling the pain of paying, we are also enjoying the facilities that the government has put in place.
Okay, the facilities have been put in place at the expense of the taxpayers' money, but there seems to be also some shortcomings in terms of management.
When you say that,
to just agree on
when you say that the expense of the taxpayers' money, the government itself does not have its own money. The money is from the taxpayers.
But the point is that the government was put in authority by the people.
Yes.
The people here are the constant factor that doesn't change, and they feel little, and this burden is going to be shouldered by them in the event.
But what has the government done which enabled pledge the people?
My point is that while we appreciate that the SGR might have been the pet project of the president to open up the mainland, I mean Mombasa and Nairobi, there were cases of corruption in the inflated price, and then the land issue. Mohamed Swazuri is still facing court charge because of the double payment for pieces of land that the SGR was passing through. It means that while we acknowledge the importance of this infrastructure in the economy, there seems to be some loopholes that need to be sealed that the government hasn't.
Now we are discussing the corruption issue as a subject that has bedfilled what has been achieved. Okay. So that is a separate documentation altogether that we must discuss it separate. But the achievement that the government has made since for the last 7 years, and the very establishment of infrastructure that Kibaki did. Because what we are doing now is what the government of Mheshimiwa Kibaki put in place.
It's just a policy implementation.
It is just a policy implementation. And the only pain that we are feeling is that the loan that was borrowed long time ago is now maturing. And the seepage through corruption is what is making us to be a little bit concerned that there's a lot of money that has been sipped into the pockets of individuals which should have been put into use. And the issue of SGR, this is a new development.
Okay, we'll come to that, because also if we are to just go across the borders, Ethiopia did have one, so was Morocco, at a lesser cost and more efficient ones for that, but in terms of the technology incorporation. But let's get the thoughts of the Deputy President, the Opposition Chief Raila Odinga, who yesterday spoke after unveiling the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force report at the Bomas of Kenya here in Nairobi.
Na kwa ukweli wakati tulikutana, tulikunywa chai karibu dakika 45, kuna mtu anaongea, tunakunywa tu chai. Habari ya nyumbani sawa. Habari ya mama hapo tu. Habari ya watoto wanasoma, wanaendelea. Kwa sababu ya hasira ya yale ambayo tulikuwa tumerushania huko mbele. Baada ya saa moja hivi sasa, jameni, ndipo sasa watu kuangaliana hapa, tumejifungia ni sisi wawili.
Let us now be mature, and I appeal especially to the political class. Don't divide these people, they don't deserve it. We are here talking about masilahi yao.
Let us not bring it to hawa wabunge ambao wanaangalia tu kwa maslahi yao wenyewe yao. Let this be a people's document.
Ni kwa nini baada ya kila miaka mitano tunaenda miaka mitatu ya kazi, miaka ya 2 tunapoteza kwa sababu siasa imechacha? Tunataka tuulize wafanyabiashara wetu wenzetu, ni nini inawazuia?
And I am happy that there are proposals on how to build and enhance the institutions of governance, that we will have a robust, maybe constitutional, opposition that will make sure that government is held to account.
Pale kwa governance, bado tutafanya ukarabati. Ni lazima president akiwa president awe na 2 deputies. Na awe na uwezo wa yeye kuchagua vile atakavyochagua prime minister. Pale kwa prime minister tuwe na assistant to prime ministers.
Okay, some of the leaders who yesterday spoke at the Bomas of Kenya, where the report by the task force chaired by Yusuf Haji was unveiled by the president and the opposition chief Raila Odinga in the presence of more than 4,000 delegates who attended the coming together yesterday here in Langata constituency. We are joined also by Dr. Justice Juma, leader the Justice and Freedom Party in the country. Dr. good morning.
Good morning.
I do appreciate your time. We were on you, Dr. Rotich, on matters that pertain, of course, the payback and the importance, the significance that these infrastructure developments have. But then again, the worry upon many Kenyans is about their future, about whether this is going to be paid back on time. And there's equally growing concern from the international community with regards to the economic handling, or Kenya's economic handling generally. And we have a minister who is facing corruption charges because of money embezzled under his watch. And that again is a worry, isn't it?
I think the issue that we must look at about the corruption, what the loot has taken outside all this, I think the issue should be handled properly by those who are entrusted with the responsibility. Because what we are now discussing is allegation upon allegation. We want to see action being done by those the investigative agency to come out with a clear indication that this money was embezzled, it was stolen, and who is responsible. Because when you do a blanket kind of accusation, it will not take us anywhere. And again, when we talk about the loan that this country is paying now, it is a loan that is more than what we can collect. In the last financial year,
yes,
our budget was 2.8 trillion, which of course we had, not actually 2.8, the 2.8 is the estimate that the country could collect, but it was 3.8 trillion shillings. I mean, having a deficit of almost 5, whatever. So in this case, what we are saying, we have a debt of over 6.5 trillion shillings, doubling what we can collect as a country. Now, what imagination can you get that within a short time we shall be able to pay this loan? Yet we are thinking about borrowing further loan to service the same loan. So it will take us some time before the economy stabilizes.
Okay, one quick question then. Is the problem borrowing, or is the problem how we handle the money we borrow?
The problem that we have is that the production of the loan that we are borrowing is not commensurate with the value that because you cannot borrow loan to do a wedding. You cannot borrow loan to build your own private house, because this loan has a maturity date which you must pay.
Okay.
Now the maturity date has elapsed. Yet, yes, the many loan that we borrowed was commercial.
Okay, and the fear is that the penalties that accompany when you don't, of course, pay the loan on time.
The penalties are always there.
Okay, let me involve Dr. Juma here. Dr. Good morning, and I do appreciate your time. Thank you for coming. Let's get the gist of... okay, Director is telling me we'll get a break. Come back and I'll start with you. The number is 0791478990. The hashtag on Twitter is NewDayKE. The short SMS code is 40920. We are coming back for more. Stay tuned. Thank you. You're watching the program. Many thanks for keeping us company here on New Day Kenya. And Dr. Juma, I'll get to you, but first let's hear what the leaders had to say yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya. And President Uhuru Kenyatta, ODM leader Raila Odinga, yesterday launched the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force report meant to cure 9 major issues affecting the country. The head of state and the opposition chief, Raila Odinga, emphasized the need to have an inclusive government in order to bring sanity before, during and after elections, as our political affairs reporter Jeff Haimba lays out that report.
Wednesday at the Bomas of Kenya was a D-Day for the launch of the Building Bridges report. The head of state Uhuru Kenyatta and the ODM leader Raila Odinga, who are the pioneers of the 2018 handshake deal that culminated into BBI, led the Kenyans in unveiling the report to the Kenyans with the key message of having an inclusive government.
Na kwa ukweli wakati tulikutana, tulikunywa chai karibu dakika 45, kuna mtu anaongea, tunakunywa tu chai. Habari ya nyumbani sawa. Habari ya mama ako tu. Habari ya watoto wanasoma, wanaendelea. Kwa sababu ya hasira ya yale ambayo tulikuwa tumerushania huko mbele. Baada ya saa moja hivi sasa, jameni, ndipo sasa watu kuangaliana hapa, tumejifungia ni sisi wawili.
It was in this meeting that the two political heavyweights revealed the hidden details on how they arrived at the March 2018 handshake deal that caught the nation by surprise.
Let us now be mature, and I appeal especially to the political class. Don't divide these people, they don't deserve it. We are here talking about masilahi yao.
Let it not bring it to hao wabunge ambao wanaangalia tu kwa maslahi yao. Let this be a people's document.
Ni kwa nini baada ya kila miaka mitano tunaenda miaka mitatu ya kazi, miaka ya 2 tunapoteza kwa sababu siasa imechacha? Tunataka tuulize wafanyabiashara wetu, wenzetu, ni nini inawazuia?
After the handshake deal, President Uhuru Kenyatta and the ODM leader Raila Odinga formed the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force that for 1 year collected the views on healing the nation, curing divisive politics, and fostering cohesion in the country. Several leaders who thronged at the Bomas of Kenya, including the Deputy President William Ruto, vowed to support the report for the benefit of the common mwananchi.
And I am happy that there are proposals on how to build and enhance the institutions of governance, that we will have a robust, maybe constitutional, opposition that will make sure that government is held to account.
Despite the leaders agreeing to support the recommendation of the report, the elephant in the room is the structure of the government, fronting for a prime minister who must be a member of parliament.
Pale kwa governance bado tutafanya ukarabati. Ni lazima president akiwa president awe na 2 deputies. Na awe na uwezo wa yeye kuchagua vile atakavyochagua prime minister. Pale kwa prime minister tuwe na assistant to prime ministers.
And this report will be constituted into either a bill, whereby we are going to decide whether it is a bill of parliament, whereby parliamentarians will vote for it, or it will be a referendum.
Because that is replacing only one in parliament by a prime minister appointed by the president because of the party. It will not solve any problem.
I want to ask the pioneers of BBI to have a serious engagement with persons with disabilities in this country and their role in BBI. We cannot just wait and say persons with disabilities will go to BBI to support and to vote when your voice has not been heard by the president, by the head of states. And you know, I think that there was a mishap there in terms of organization.
We may actually end up saying that people in public service should not engage in business, but then they have their proxies. Even those proxies must not be allowed.
The BBI task force chaired by the Garissa Senator Yusuf Haji have now pleaded for the implementation of the report to ensure it does not gather dust in the shelves like other reports prepared in the past. One of the key agenda in the handshake deal between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the ODM leader Raila Odinga was to heal political tension in the country before, during and after every election period. The big question remains whether indeed the BBI report will be a lasting solution to what all this menace in the country. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
Jeff and Dr. Juma, if I may come to you. Right. We talked about the economy here, and in the aftermath of the 26th of October repeat poll, the 2017 election, the months that followed up until March 2018, and of course the swearing-in ceremony of Raila Odinga at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. How do we make the economies both at the county and at the national level one that is resource mobilized, productivity-led, export-oriented economy, and perhaps to end the sort of begging bowl culture that we see coming from the government and the appetite for more money that continues to spiral in an attempt to boost the economy?
The problem we have, I think, as I identified in BBI, actually is the software, not the hardware, with our leadership. And the software is majorly around the leadership crisis we've been having. It's not that this country is poor. This country is one of the wealthiest, where beginning with human resource that is very well informed, very well educated. If we look at the favorable environment, agricultural environment, where in Kenya you can produce anything. Forget about like in Israel, where you are farming in the desert, and you are top in the world producing agricultural produce. And yet we have a virgin land that is lying fallow. If you go to Rift Valley of Masai land, there's a lot that leadership has failed to do. And when you see leadership...
Sorry, can I just pause you? Pick this call from John Adamba, joining us presumably from Bungoma County. Yes. Good morning, John. Bushere.
My friend, Bungoma tuko shwari, tuko wazima, tuko wazuri sana. Upepo unapita mzuri sana.
Mko wazima wote?
Tuko wazima, tunafurahi. My friend, na watoto wetu. Na wale wananisikiliza, wacha niseme namna hivi.
Endelea.
Bila kuangalia hii BBI report. Hii BBI inaenda kupita ukilinganisha na punguza mizigo. So kitu ningependa kusema namna hivi. Jopo liundwe. Sikiliza vizuri baba Abudi. Jopo liundwe mara moja. La kukusanya maoni ya wananchi. Jopo liundwe mara moja. Na nambari na hotline ya jopo hilo itolewe countrywide badala ya kutumia IEBC. Hilo jopo likusanye maoni, lione watu watakuwa wamesema namna gani, lichunguze hiyo maoni na litekeleze. Lakini tukitumia njia ya IEBC kwenda kwa referendum, tutapoteza hii utamu ambao nimeona. Tutamwaga hii asafi ambao ninaiona. Tutamwaga hii maziwa ambao ninaona yanakuja.
Asante.
Nikimalizia Bwana Abdi.
Yes, go ahead.
Maoni yangu hapo ni hiyo county government ya Nairobi au Nairobi county.
Okay.
Mara kwa mara ninasema hiyo county irekebishwe na ikuwe himaya tu ya serikali, the ruling government empire. So isikuwe na mtu kama MP, isikuwe na mtu kama MCA, isikuwe na mtu kama governor, senator hapo. Ibaki tu kuwa ni himaya ya serikali. Hata ni maoni yangu natoa na job hilo lingekuweko na hotline ingekuweko, ningelifikia na itapoli jambo hilo lingetekelezwa, ingekuwa vizuri sana.
Okay. Asante sana. Thank you so much. Tumeshukuru sana kwa kupiga kwako. Thank you. Yes, Daktari, go ahead please.
Yes, thanks a lot, John from Bungoma, for your contribution. I feel the spirit that John have on regards to BBI, which actually resonates across the board with all Kenyans, because Kenyans are expectant. But there's a scripture that says in Proverbs 13:12, it says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And constantly as Kenyans, we've been given hope that appears to be hope. Yet when it comes to functionality, there's no deliverables. And if you look at the narratives and the orations that we are treated to, sometimes I call them a labyrinth that are meant to wear you out, such that at the end of the day, you will not be able to ask a question. Because the very persons who stand before the national TV and present serious cases, after genuine connection and interaction with Kenyans, which some, I'm certain, might be altered, because if you follow the actual Hansard that went to the citizen and the input and the contribution they might have asked for, I'm sure no Kenyan would have asked for a premier who is being appointed by the president. No, you look at a lot of the recommendations that are coming in. Yeah, so there is an element of the entire process being hijacked by the political players.
Who, to be specific here, the principals or?
Well, I stated this earlier. There's a moment you had asked me here regarding my view on Punguza Mzigo and BBI. And my contribution was straight, because individuals who have formulated these outfits, like now you know BBI has really been repackaged to look like a national or state program or agenda, which everybody needs to embrace. But behind the scene, there are political interests who are building political campaign agenda with their aim and focus at 2022. And you've seen divergence play, even when we saw the divergence views that were playing yesterday. Those were, clearly political contestation, which various political outfits are actually lining up with to present before the citizen as their own campaign agenda in expectation for a 2022 election. But as leader of Justice and Freedom Party, the key question we would ask, because these theatrics we're being treated to, this is not the first time.
All right.
There are moments when we were given Waki reports, we were given Dungu Land reports, we were given Kriegler reports.
TGRC report.
We have TGRC report. Now we even have 2010 election, a constitution, which if you look at it by and large, the extent by which it has been implemented, you will find out probably that almost 3/4 has not been implemented. And these narratives that political outfits normally use to cleanse themselves and come out pious and give false hope, it actually should not find a place, especially with our informed citizens, which we are praying through these outfits or programs like this to try our best and make sure that we sensitize and inform our citizens to be aware of these theatrics, of these games, because at the end of it all, the monkeys are the same, the forest can be changed, but the same fruits are what we are going to expect from these individuals.
Okay, yes, Ben. Go ahead, please. On matters the economy, the kind or at the moment where we are a country where we have imported capital finance, consumption-led, and we all see this happening at a time when this is further exacerbated by politically corrupt elite in the country. When you look at the sort of institutionalized corruption in the country, the Ministry of Health, Interior and Coordination of National Government, the Agriculture Ministry, two among the pillars of four, agriculture and health do feature in the President's Big Four agenda. Are they realizable? Are they achievable owing to the economic downturn in the country at the moment?
Again, I repeat, there's no economic downturn in this country. What we have is a nation...
We seem to have a problem. No. We cannot run away from the...
Let me explain myself.
Well, doesn't it worry you that we need to turn around the economic mess in the country? When 43%, the international lender says, of the 2.87 trillion, that is what was managed by the taxpayer, the KRA, a trillion public domestic debt is owed to the local investors and will have to be settled by 2020 September, 1.2 trillion of that money. Doesn't it concern you that the World Bank in October said that the Kenyan economic update noted the country's public debt increased by 3.2% of the GDP in the 2018-19 financial year, and that the National Assembly on the same day ignored the advice and voted to increase the debt ceiling to 9 trillion Kenya shillings from 7.5 trillion. Doesn't it concern you that we are in the mess and we want to get out?
This is what I was coming to, Ayub. And I don't know why nobody in Kenya wants to look at this issue from the perspective I want to look at it from. It's very simple. In a population of 47 million people, we have 2 million people who are taxpayers. It is these 2 million people who are carrying the burden of the entire 47 million people. The infrastructure and all those problems that this nation is trying to do. And all I have been saying, and I wish I could say it in capital letters, only that there's no way to frame it in capital letters.
Just put it in capital, psychologically.
But all I have been trying to say and trying to underline and put in bold and put in capital letters is that we need to empower our nation so that it is not 2 million people who are carrying the burden of 47 million people. And Kenyans are willing to do that. Kenyans are willing to plant onions. Kenyans are willing to do anything to be part of that tax-paying bracket. Trust you me, they are not happy to be people who are a burden to this nation. What we are doing all the time is thinking of how we can raise money from external sources to pay external debts. But we haven't looked within. If we looked within and realized that if we empowered our nation so that instead of having 2 million taxpayers, we can have 3, 4, 5 million. We have a lot of land. Kenyans live on 10% of their land. The rest of the land, about 80, 90%, has not been utilized. And we have a lot of productive agricultural. What you call semi-arid land here is what Israel calls the most fertile and productive land that they would ever have or imagine of having. So it is unfortunate that a country like Kenya is importing rice from Pakistan. So let's not start saying that our economy has a problem because we are borrowing and so on and so forth.
So we have to look within.
The reason that our economy is not doing well is because 2 million people are carrying the burden of 47 million Kenyans.
The point is then, what do we
do? It's very simple. First thing tomorrow morning, ban importation of rubbish, no toothpicks, no handkerchiefs, no underwear, because this is the only way to create employment. Why am I sitting on a chair made in Turkey or Germany, whereas Ngong Road is doing a lot of that? Where do we have a table, for example, here made in Dubai, and these tables are being made on Ngong Road? We have created jobs in Dubai. This table, if it had been done here, Kawangware, which is very near us, it would have created an income for a family in Kawangware, which family would not have been, and when people earn money, they are very interesting. They start buying new clothes, they start buying a new bed, they start buying a new mattress. And so this economy will only grow when we start empowering our own young people to earn. And the only way you do that is to ban importation of things that this country can make.
Well noted.
I made a mwiko when I was in class 7.
Okay.
Today our mwiko is coming from China. Wait, every household here is eating ugali. The economists will tell you, if our mwiko is coming from China, something is wrong with this nation. You cannot make your own mwiko that makes the staple food of your nation. So for us, before we start talking of those big micro and whatever, let's come small, let's come micro. Let's not stop macro. If we make sure that the youngest and the lowest in the world can be able to do that which they can be able to do. Like now, we have plastic baskets coming from China. We used to have a kiondo. My own grandmother could make a kiondo with her own hands. Now, when we stop my grandmother from making a kiondo with her hands, and we import that kiondo from China because it's made of plastic and very many colors. I have seen them. What happens is my grandmother is not earning anymore. She's not spending anymore. So we have to build this economy from saying, let us stop importing what our people can build. If we do that, this nation will...
Economic empowerment of the citizenry. But this is my question then. That again, when you create an economic zone for Kenyans to thrive, it means that fits into manufacturing for Kenyans to manufacture. I mean, that will be done locally here in the country. Yes. And manufacturing is one pillar in the Big Four agenda. But it appears that the current economic environment, we have to agree on that, doesn't allow Kenyans to do or undertake that initiative that we've just proposed. So how do we capacity build then? Because we seem to have problems.
How do we capacity build them? I'll tell you the answer. It's very simple.
Because I'm coming to the tax policy, tax administration issue in this country, and you have mentioned 2 of the 47 million Kenyans do pay taxes, and that again speaks to the use of technology, algorithms, and a government that has abetted and supported the current economic mess in the country that we can't run away from if we are to turn around the legacy.
I'll tell you how we'll do that. Right now, my grandmother who is sitting at home does not need a factory to make her kiondos. All she needs to be assured is that once she makes her kiondo, there will be no kiondo coming from another country to compete with her kiondo. Her kiondo will sell. The problem we are imagining that manufacturing in Kenya requires us to have big factories and everything. I can tell you, the Kamba people who used to make a lot of good muikos did not need a factory with electricity and all that. All they needed was the assurance that if I sit at home and make 100 muikos, by evening, I will sell 10. And if I'm selling each for 100, I'll take home 1,000 shillings.
All right.
So when we talk of manufacturing, the problem we have is that we think of huge industries. India has developed, not because they have huge industries. The way they make their toothpick is not to have a huge machine that runs through them. It's to have one that makes, you know, small, and that person is able to make 2,000-3,000 shillings. Okay. So let's approach manufacturing not from the point of heavy equipment, not from the point of a lot of electricity, because that's what you people are imagining, and a lot of infrastructure and roads.
Not about that.
But from the point of knowing that if I go to Wangige market,
an enabling environment.
If I go to Wangige market, the handkerchief I'm buying in Wangige market has not come from China, but from a young person.
Okay, while that again, you are speaking to a boost in the production within the capacity of the country, again, there must be an enabling economic environment that the government must guarantee.
Actually, that's what I'm coming to. That's what I'm coming to.
Okay, sorry, before you come in, I need to go to the
I think there is something that we are failing to look at. Whenever you are making any production, what is it that you are targeting at? You are targeting to sell. You are targeting a market that is existing. And when you are talking about the market, you are targeting a price that you are going to get out of it. Much of what we have in this country, if our borders would be closed, that we don't entertain any foreign produced items. I mean, why is it that in Kenya, the mitumbas are selling more than the manufactured clothes that are done in the country? Why? Why? It is because the prices are more friendly to the economic status or maturity of our people. So when we import, like now, why are we talking about importing eggs from South Africa? Why are we importing eggs from Tanzania? And the eggs that we have, I mean, could be enough to produce. I mean, this country can be self-sufficient by producing enough eggs to feed this country. But the case again is that the production is so expensive. The prices that these goods are fetching are so high that our people are finding it favorable to fetch from outside. So we are producing with the mind to sell. We are producing with the mind to make a profit. We are producing, with the mind to excel in our business. You cannot excel in a closed, economy.
Okay, Dr. Rich, let me just pause you. You'll continue. Get this call from Sagero calling us from Nakuru County. Good morning.
Good morning, Abdi.
Good morning to you. Habari asubuhi.
Mzuri sana labda yako.
Talk to me, my brother.
I just wanted to comment on the economy of Kenya.
Yes, go ahead, please.
In fact, the economy of Kenya.
Yes.
Good morning, please.
Yes, nakusikia. Go ahead, please.
Mimi nilikuwa nataka kuchangia kwamba mambo ya economy ya Kenya tuko naye. Sio kitu kingine inaharibu hii economy yetu ya Kenya. It's just the cost of running the government. Yes, the government is overrepresented.
Okay.
We have so many offices. We have so many governors. The cost of running even the office of the governor it is billions and billions of money.
Okay.
2, In fact, even the members of parliament, wale wenye tulikuwa nao the other time, they were 100 and they were 210. So we have 290.
Yes.
In fact, you cost ya kurun even the office of the MP peke yake. Unajua watu wanaangalia tu ile mshahara peke yake anapata.
Yes.
Lakini kuna some other costs zenye zimejificha hapo. Don't multiply that 1 times all the members of parliament wenye tuko nayo, senators, women rep, na watu wote.
Okay.
Economy inaharibika tu kwa sababu ya pesa zote zenye tunaokota zingine zinaenda kwa development, alafu zingine tena zinaenda kwa mifuko ya watu kwa sababu ya mishahara na those other costs zenye ziko hapo. If we can reduce the cost of running the government, hiyo itafanya hata even taxation peke yake KRA watajisukuma sana, tutakuwa tunapata pesa ya kufanya development.
Okay.
Hata mambo ya kufanya even the cost of doing business in Kenya. It is too high. Hiyo ndio inafanya hata industries zetu zinaanguka.
Okay.
Even Mumia sugar company, watu wanasema sijui zilibiwa, sijui zilifanya nini. It's just the cost of doing that business ndio inafanya watu inarudi chini. So kama serikali kama itaweza angalia the cost of doing business in Kenya, in other words, we reduce the cost of running the government, because overtaxation ndio inafanya hizi industries zinaanguka.
Alright.
Hata huyo mama mwenye anatengeneza hiyo kiondo, mwenye nimesikia huyo wakili anasema cost of doing that business alone, ukiangalia na ile yenye inatengenezwa kutoka India ama China,
yes,
cost of production is very simple, is very little. Ndio inafanya watu wanaleta, hata wakileta pande inafanya mpaka wale wenye tunaita smugglers wanaleta hizo vitu kuja Kenya at a very low price, and that is what is happening at mambo ya sugar industry.
Yes.
So they should look at solution from that angle, please.
Okay, asante sana.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for calling in, and good morning, asante. Thank you. Yes, you exactly that
I
point.
concur with him so much this way. The cost of running the government is so high. Like I've been saying, the county government was formed with not very clear mind on the cost of running that government. Because the original idea came from or emanated from the successes of CDF on the ground. Now they say that we want to come up with the county government that will be run on a similar manner. But what our drafters of the constitution failed to capture is that they were going to increase. I mean, the running of the county government is more expensive than anything else. You are talking about 47 governments. You are not even talking about the seepage through corruption. You are talking about running the recurrent expense or expenses within the county government. It is quite enormous. That if we don't revisit, I can see this one, it is just a landmine that can explode any time.
Okay, let's now check, Dr. Juma, coming to you. On this proposed recommendation in the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force of the last audited account for that particular county, respective county, to get at least a 35% allocation. And that's down from the 15 that we currently have. We have heard the cries of the county governors saying that the government is out there to jeopardize devolution. Now more resources will be channeled in the event it's properly managed. Do you harbor fears or from the further disappointments that this might open more doors for corruption and swindling of the public resources in the event that this money again will be channeled to the counties to 35% level at the county level?
You see, if it's a constitutional provision, one needs to respect the constitution because the rule is by the law. Being swindled is another case. We have mechanisms of enforcing anti-corruption measures such that you avoid any individuals who messes up with public funds. But due to lack of national aspirations and goals, which they stated as first, lack of ethos and aspiration, has led to wrong economic priorities. One, we need to know who we are, understand who we are, so that we define the economic goals and activities that we actually invest in. About Kenya, 75% of Kenyans are agrarian pastoralists. And these agrarian pastoralists depend entirely on agriculture. And that is their livelihood, that is their skills. Actually, that is the environment, that is what they know.
Okay.
Only about 25% are the one who, as we talk about science and technology survey, and mostly are the city dwellers. But if you come back to the government, you'll find out that the government's economic policy, about 80% of government economic policies, actually, let me say 90 because 80 I'm giving them more, is based on science and technology. And look at all the budget outline. If you look at even emanating straight from the county government, if you look at them, you're wondering, what are these guys? Are these guys? Do they know the people they're serving, or are we out of touch with our people? So when your focus is 80%, 80% of your economic policy is science and technology, whose infrastructure you have no control on. You are a consumer in that infrastructure. The moment you start consuming, whatever production you'll be producing will be benefiting the person who is controlling the base of what? That infrastructure. And this has made our economic vulnerable. Over and above that, you mentioned, I agree with you on the cost of production and high taxation. We mentioned this when we were borrowing. Each time you are borrowing, you will have to inflate tax for you to repay back. One, we borrow, and whatever we borrow does not touch the ground. 70% of it disappears. You only come back with 30%. That 30%, you want to use it to pay back. You want to use it to also adjust the taxation. This has led to very high cost of production. The very simple elements, products we could have been producing in Kenya, our neighbor Uganda is producing them at a very cheaper cost. Why? Because ours are costly. No one will buy here, or no manufacturing companies will want to produce in Kenya. Again,
and manufacturing is an element in the president's Big Four agenda.
No, if you are talking about this as an element, you see, you have to readdress it right from the grassroots. And from the grassroots, it goes way back to education. If your education curriculum is not tailor-made to support production or agrarian environment or manufacturing, it is geared, actually, the ultimate goal is get a certificate and get a job, isn't it? It is not, it is not, let me just finish my point.
Okay,
it is
briefly,
not,
because of time, we need to go on a break and come back.
It is not geared with a content that is supporting production and manufacturing. The moment your education foundation is producing individuals whose work or whose products will be servitude, then definitely, even if you talk about manufacturing, you will not get people who will be handling these things. Produce something.
Welcome back. You're watching the program, and before I proceed to Dr. Rotich, allow us to take a look at what Kenyans had to say about the economy in the country and how they are feeling the brunt of the economy following the unveiling of the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force report by the President yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya here in Nairobi County.
Sasa hiyo BBI saa hii, ukiangalia hata content zile BBI imebeba hiyo 9 agenda. Si unaangalia ni zile vitu Raila alikuwa anashindaga kulia tu. Daily. Hii mambo ya IBC, mambo ya corruption, mambo ya inclusivity.
Mimi naona kama PPI ni mchezo wa paka na panya. Kwa sababu ile kitu ambayo tulitarajia katika PPI haiko. Mimi kama mwananchi nilikuwa nataka ile power sharing ikuwe very open. Kwa sababu tunaambiwa Prime Minister bado atatoka kwa majority party. Na majority party itakuwa ni government. Kwa hivyo hakuna power, there's no true power sharing.
Mimi nitasoma ndio nielewe vizuri hiyo BBI ina entail nini na ni nini inafaa turekebishe kwa katiba, tujue ni nini, shida iko wapi.
Interest yako iko wapi?
Interest yangu sana ni kwa mayouth. Hatuwezi kuwa tunasoma na bado tunakosa kazi. Unakuta tumesoma ndio, lakini after getting out of universities and colleges, you still have nowhere to fit in.
Kitu Kenya wanapigania ni kitu ndogo. One tribe katalia uongozi, na kitu ya pili, ati ule ameshinda anachukua kila kitu. So they were forced. Waliwekwa kwa ukuta kabisa. That's why walibidi waende kwa handshake. Handshake ikatoa 9 agenda. 9 agenda ndio ilitengeneza BBI. BBI ingekuwa Raila angekuwa president, tungekuwa tushaendelea sisi. Lakini sasa hiyo pressure yote na hiyo kuapishwa vitu za kandakando zileta BBI.
Ukiona sana wamesema Prime Minister atakuwa appointed kutoka kwa chama ambayo iko na members of parliament ambao ni wengi. Sasa ukiangalia hii kutoka independence, kila wakati ile serikali ambayo inachukua uongozi inakuwa kwamba ni watu ambao majority of MPs wanatokea upande wa serikali. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha hata kama kwa leo hii tumekuwa na uchaguzi na ikuwe kwamba serikali imeungwa imekuwa formed na majority of MPs wamekuwa bado ni kutoka upande wa serikali, inamaanisha huyo rais bado kuna uwezekano atachagua bado kutoka kwa serikali ama wale watu ambao walikuwa wamemuunga mkono.
Mambo ya kupigana siku hizi iliisha. Siku hizi watu wanakaa chini wanaelewana tu.
Okay, thank you. Benki Nuthia, if I may come to you, you had a point before we went on break. Yes, go ahead, please.
You were talking about allocation of more money to the counties. And I was feeling before we do that, we need to harmonize taxation in counties. For example, in some counties, if you bury the dead in a cemetery, you pay more than in others. The costs of advertising and branding are different around the counties. Kenyans have been taxed in a way that a person who lives in Eldoret doesn't pay the same taxes as a person who lives in Taita Taveta or a person who lives in Nairobi. Yet we are one nation. There are taxes that we are paying all of us to the national government, and then there are those like VAT, and then there are those taxes that each county has chosen we are going to tax so and so and so and so. I was amazed when I spoke to someone at Nairobi County and they told me they collect more at county level than they actually get from the national government. But all the time, counties...
Which means there's a pilferage.
Counties, I'm telling you, by the time a county is getting 10 billion, they're collecting 15, 16, 17, 18. So what needs to happen, in my thinking, is that first we need to amend the taxation laws in this country so that there's only one tax collector who is KRA. So that even if there's a breakdown charge, like now umevutwa on a breakdown from point A to point B in a county, that money should be paid to a KRA account. We already have a revenue sharing formula. I'm telling you, it is possible to collect that 3 trillion that we are thinking about because it is being collected. The problem we have is that every county wakes up at night, the MCAs decide we are going to have a tax for anybody who has a chicken. And you don't know how many chicken are in a county. So if before we go into giving counties 35% of what's coming from the national government, I feel they should even get 50%. Let us first harmonize the tax regime so that taxes are uniform and even around the country. And secondly, let there be one tax collection agency. I'm assuring you, we'll collect the whole 3 trillion we need, then we can give counties 1.5 trillion. So walipatiwa 400 something billion. Let's collect 3 trillion, let's give them 1.5 trillion. And that way we can be able to account for that money. But now we have a situation whereby a guy who collects more money than you give him is always looking at what you are giving him and forgetting that what they are collecting is not even being accounted for.
All right, Dr. Ritich, regarding the tax issue, because it's equally important for bankrolling of the economy or the roll-on of the economy. And here, there are two key issues, because I want to look at the tax policy vis-a-vis the tax administration, because it's very central for economic reform, especially at the point we are, because we are at an abyss point in terms of the economy in the country. How do we inculcate, for instance, say, technology to ensure that there is a tax base that supports the economy of the country, and that might perhaps ought to lessen our attention outside, especially at a time when we are looking east for soft loans from China and Saudi Arabia that do not pose more restrictions or conditions, as is the case with the IMF or the World Bank?
I think what we have to know is the government uses the taxation as a policy to guide the economy of the country. Because the lesser the taxable, as my colleague was saying, the taxable capacity in this country has been down to the limit, as we are talking now. Even as we are thinking about increasing the ratio of what we should be giving to the county governments, the collection may not agree with us. You overheard the president saying the other day when the governors actually were in, that they were to be given up to the 16 whatever trillion which you were targeting at, ending up with the legal that the government. So the president says we cannot give what we don't have. So what I look at, I don't see so much about the how much will be given to the county government, but I can see so much how much we can collect as a government. So the policy that can be used, like now, we are talking about the industries that we are taxing. If we overtax the industries, we are discouraging their growth.
And they are likely to fly.
And they are likely to fly. That is why some of the businesses or corporations are actually leaving the country. Not because they like it. It is because the taxable ratio is so high that they cannot contain. They are no longer making profits. Because when you tax a growing farm, to the level that it cannot grow. You overeat the profits that they are actually making. Because most of these corporations are actually driven by profit motive. If they are not making any profits, what business do you have with that? So that is why we are saying, recently the government was coming up with the proposal that they have to remove the rate of interest cap. That thing was put in 2016. Removing it means it will give the banks the freedom to charge whatever rates that they want. That in itself means you are leaving this vulnerable businessman actually at the expense of this man. So there is something that we must look at as a country. We must have a friendly taxable capacity that people can afford and can still proceed with their work. You cannot overtask and remain and continue expecting that this farm will actually continue growing. So what we need as a country is to create an enabling environment. Enabling environment, part of it is to look at the taxable policy. A friendly means you can work without feeling a lot of pain while you are paying the taxes, because taxes must be paid. In fact, every person is actually entitled to pay taxes, because that is where the government gets the money. But it has to be a friendly level that all can pay without feeling a lot of pain.
Okay, Dr. Juma, if I may come to you. We have a call? Yes, let's get this call. I'll come to you. He's David calling us from... good morning, David.
Good morning.
Morning to you. Habari asubuhi.
Salama sana.
Okay, talk to us, please.
Huh?
Talk to us.
Yes, I only have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I'm just asking whether tax evasion is a kind of corruption. Yeah.
Okay, whether tax evasion is a kind of corruption?
Yes. If you identify someone is evading a tax, can you be a whistleblower?
Okay. I think you want some
I think
clarification.
paying taxes is an obligation of every citizen.
It's required by law.
Evading taxes is corruption.
And criminal.
And criminal. My brother was talking about priorities that we have had in this country. Getting also wrong priorities is corruption.
Okay.
You see, I think there's Jesus in the Bible who says you give Caesar to what belongs to Caesar. And Caesar then was taxes. So him not paying taxes, I think I'll tell him the same. And the question should be, what are our taxes doing? Yes. Actually, some governments are not even in the business of doing business. What they do is create enabling environment for private sectors and citizens to thrive in doing business. The moment you get government in business, I was just mentioning here earlier, for example, Kenya Power, you look at
the proposed increase by 2 shillings.
Right.
From 10 to 12.
Well, also look at the shareholders of the Kenya Power itself. In Germany, when they produce electricity, because generally hydro-generated electricity is not storable, it can only be consumed. The moment you leave it to run there, it just goes to waste as you produce more. The best thing would be let it run, let it work. Actually, to some extent, them they go door to door and telling people at least use it so that it doesn't go to what? Produce something with it that can, even if you're paying, and their cost of power production and their charges on power is very low. Yet in Kenya, we produced power. You look at even the Olkaria, the geothermal, leave alone the hydroelectric powers that we've been generating all this while. But if you look at KPLC and the shareholders within this system, it is not supportive. Even the cost of that electricity alone in your own house, you'd rather keep it off to save on the cost. And as you're switching it off, this thing is running to waste. Yet somebody is just sitting there, they rather waste it and you don't use it for you to pay expensively. That tells you how wrong priority leadership can be. If the leadership are concerned and they're good stewards of the little things that we have, you use it, and you're talking about cost of production, and you want to produce more with the little that you have for you to be competitive. Because number one,
the point is, Daktari, then, if we have this proposed energy hiking price by the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, it affects manufacturing, of course, which is a pillar in the president's agenda. When you talk about another element, which is the food security aspect, the Galana Kulalo project collapsed. Why? Because the Israeli company pulled out, terming as some sort of kickbacks from the government officials. It's a case of a government plan crippling the same plan. I mean, and the effect here is enormously going to be on the Kenyan people.
Back to leadership crisis that we're having and we are going through. Kenya can grow even within the next 5 years. You may not be talking about the Kenya we are talking about today. But the current state capture, where it was a World Bank, I think, income index, where they were stating that about 95% of Kenyan population, 97% of Kenyan population have earned below 1 million. But just about 3%, actually is even less than 3%, they are the ones who have billions in their account. And these individuals with the billions in their account are the same person who are capturing these instruments of production.
So we are talking about oligarchy here.
So if these instruments of productions are not released, which country was it which took the dynasties and closed them in a house and burnt all of them? Which country? I think, was it Germany or which country? I'll get the fact right. So the challenge we have, and to some extent, some even wonder why Kenyans are broke. You've seen them asking in the public domain. Because the much they are having in the account is imaginable. And the leadership who can resonate with the citizen and have the interests of the citizen at heart is what we are searching for right now. And this is what this generation has to wake up to. Failure to which the same dynasties will hold us captive and subject our business aspirations. Actually, they will force down our throat their business aspirations to be our business aspiration, which does not resonate.
Okay, it's very simple on two things. One is on the power and the other one is on food security. On power, we are not serious when we speak about power. The people who have tried to campaign so that, I mean, in the US, the socket is 110 votes. The bulk of the world is using 110. We are this one country that has got power problems and we are using 240. So they are using half the power we are using. Most of the bulbs in the developed world are 5 watts. They give light like that of 100 watts, but they are 5 watts, 3 watts, okay? Here sasa ndio mmeanza kuleta zingine zimejaa mercury, unaambiwa ni 11, 15, 20 watts, and we think we are doing something. We need to wake up to the reality that we ourselves are consuming a lot of unnecessary power. We need to get to the point where we start saying, no, wait a minute, what can we do about this? And secondly, on the food security, the minister who was in charge of Galana Kulalu was the same minister who was at the port of Mombasa a year later to receive maize coming from abroad.
That is Mwangi Kiunjuri.
No. That time it was Eugene Wamalwa. So he was the same minister who was at the port to receive maize from. When you have people who are bulk importers of maize being charged with the responsibility of running a maize irrigation project.
And contains aflatoxins.
That cannot happen. So we need to get to the point where we decide no. As a nation and as a matter of policy, when we do not have maize, the person who is in charge of that ministry should resign and be in jail. Because instead of Galana Kulalu, we would have done it differently. We would have looked for farmers who own private lands and see how to empower them with basic micro-irrigation equipment. Because let me tell you, a person who is growing maize on their own farm as an individual, when it's a private entity, most of the time it goes right. Yesterday I walked into a boardroom with a government official and he said it looks so beautiful. Why? It's a private sector kind of office. They have built it to their own liking and standard.
Yes.
The government boardrooms will never meet that standard. So as long as we are allowing people to do things the way they are going to do, they don't care, it's government money. Yes. But if it's in private hands and it's well managed, this country can be food secure and we can have enough power to run all our industries.
Okay, Dr. Rotich.
I think on this issue, there is something that we are missing, a link. When you talk about power, heightening, and you talk about enhancing manufacturing or industry or establishments of industries, you are not relating the two. Why? It's because the industry uses power. The moment you heighten power, it will kill the other one. I'm almost in agreement with my brother who says that when the government start doing business with the people, that is when things will go wrong. So what I expect from the government is to reduce or to have concession in the power supply, to make power cheap, available to the public, power cheap, available to the industries. That will go a long way in enhancing the establishment of the industries that we are talking about. You cannot talk about hiking the power and at the same time establishing industries. Those things cannot move that way. Number two, we are talking about corporations that are dying. Kenya Airways for one, the Kenya Power, I mean the people who have shares in the Kenya Power, the people who have Kenya Power, I mean the power with the Kenya Airways, whichever way. So these are business corporations that are also profit motivated. And if we don't delink the government policies with this business, it will not go anywhere. Because those are the Kenya Power, they stand to benefit because they invested their shares. They invested in their shares in these corporations. And if they invested in shares, they are supposed to earn.
Okay.
So you are talking about heightening to improve what? Dividends.
Okay, and more or less, again, we might see more flight from the market regarding manufacturing.
Hiking power from hydro, and when the rains are highest, and when there's a lot of floods and the dams are full.
Okay, the dams are full.
It's not making sense.
It defeats the whole logic.
Well,
because of time, Dr.
Yes, fellow Kenyans, there's a lot that we need to take charge of, looking at the notable issues that even the BBI themselves brought to us. They said Kenya is at crisis. They said the youth in Kenya are feeling so excluded. They're saying that Kenyans do not trust their leaders and the institutions and systems. All this are a reflection of what is reality and the truth on the ground. And to me, my call on my fellow citizens this time round is to take responsibility in our hand and forge our way out. These people, they will always come back to us. Yes, they'll get the reality, but when it comes to action, they'll always give us hope deferred. And hope deferred makes the heart sick. Let's take charge of our future. And come 2022, as they are beginning to narrate, we will show them dust and show them that we can do it different.
Dr. Thank you so much. Dr. Justice Juma, leader, Justice and Freedom Party in the country. At the center is Ben Kinuthia, lawyer, political commentator, starting the 2005 bombers. And 15 years later, we had the congregation yesterday. Dr. Joseph Rotich is an economist. I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you
for coming.